I knew something was terribly wrong long before anyone said it out loud. The female gorilla was being kept alive by every machine we had, yet her body was clearly losing the fight. What none of us knew then was that the answer to saving her life might also save her unborn baby. That realization would change everything. I have worked as a primate keeper at the Bronx Zoo for 12 years, and I had never seen behavior like this before. Bella, our 18-year-old Western lowland gorilla, paced her enclosure with a rhythm that sent a chill through me. 5 slow steps toward the eastern wall. She stopped, pressed her palm against her swollen stomach, and exhaled sharply. Then she turned, walked 5 steps back toward the western corner, paused again, and touched her belly once more. Over and over. The same exact pattern. For days. "She knows something is wrong," I whispered. Dr. Laura Reynolds, our head veterinarian, stood beside me at the observation window. She did not answer right away. Instead, she stared at the ultrasound images glowing on her tablet, her jaw tight, her brow furrowed. "The baby has shifted position again," she finally said, "and these measurements are not good. Growth has slowed significantly over the past 2 weeks." Bella was a first-time mother. Her pregnancy had been a moment of celebration for the entire zoo. Western lowland gorillas were critically endangered, and every successful birth meant hope for the species. This pregnancy was supposed to be routine. Instead, it had slowly turned into a nightmare. "How far along is she?" I asked, even though I already knew. 7 months, Dr. Reynolds replied, enlarging the ultrasound image. "A full-term pregnancy is 8.5 months. If she goes into labor now, the baby's chances are extremely low." Before she could finish her sentence, a loud thud echoed through the room. Bella had stopped pacing. She rushed to the glass barrier and pressed both hands against it, staring straight at us. Her eyes were wide, her breathing was fast and uneven. Then she made a sound I had never heard before. It was not aggressive. It was not territorial. It was pure fear. "She is in labor," Dr. Reynolds said, already moving toward the medical preparation area. "Call everyone, now." Within 20 minutes, the zoo's emergency medical team had assembled. Bella's contractions were intense and dangerously close together. There was no time left for careful planning. "We have to perform an emergency cesarean section," Dr. Reynolds announced. "The baby is in distress, and Bella is not dilating. If we wait, we will lose them both." I stayed with Bella as the anesthesia began to work, speaking softly, telling her she was not alone. Just before she lost consciousness, her massive hand closed gently around my fingers. The trust in that moment nearly broke me. The surgery lasted 43 minutes. When Dr. Reynolds finally lifted the infant from Bella's abdomen, the entire room went silent. The baby was impossibly small. 2 pounds, the assistant veterinarian whispered after checking the scale. A healthy newborn gorilla typically weighs between 4 and 4.5 pounds. This baby was barely half that size. She was not breathing. Dr. Reynolds moved instantly, clearing the airway, stimulating the tiny chest, and fitting a pediatric oxygen mask normally used for premature human infants. 30 seconds passed, then 1 minute, then 2. Finally, the baby gasped. A weak cry filled the room. "We have her," Dr. Reynolds said quietly. "But she is critical. Prepare the incubator." We named her Grace. For the next 3 days, Grace fought for every single breath inside a specialized incubator designed for emergencies exactly like this one. And while the machines worked tirelessly to keep her alive, we all wondered if Bella would wake up at all. Monitors surrounded the incubator, tracking every fragile detail of Grace's existence. Her heart rate, her oxygen saturation, her body temperature. There were more wires attached to her tiny body than seemed possible, and yet she still looked impossibly small beneath them all. While Grace fought to survive, Bella was slipping away. Physically, her recovery from the cesarean section was progressing as expected. The incision was healing. There were no signs of infection. But none of that mattered, because Bella refused to eat. She refused to drink. She lay curled in the far corner of her recovery enclosure, her back to the room, releasing soft, broken sounds that grew weaker with every passing hour. By the morning of the 4th day, she had not moved in over 6 hours. "She has given up," I said quietly, watching her through the observation window. "She does not understand where her baby is." Another keeper shook his head, helpless. "She thinks Grace is dead. We have tried everything. We brought her blankets with the baby's scent. We played recordings of Grace's cries. She will not respond." Dr. Laura Reynolds arrived just before noon. One look at the charts and her face hardened. "Bella has lost 8 pounds in 4 days, she said. "That is catastrophic. If she does not start eating by tomorrow, we will be forced to intervene. Intravenous fluids, feeding tubes. But honestly, I do not think she will survive that level of stress." I stared at Bella through the glass. She had become family to me over the past 3 years. When she first arrived at the zoo, she was a traumatized adolescent, rescued from an illegal breeding operation. It had taken months before she trusted a single human. I had been there for every step forward, every breakthrough, every moment she chose connection over fear. Now I was watching her disappear. In the medical wing, Grace was fighting her own war. Day 4 brought a crisis none of us were prepared for. At 2:17 in the morning, the alarm blared. I had been sleeping on a chair in the observation room and jolted upright. Through the glass, I saw the incubator monitors flashing red. "Doctor." Reynolds arrived within 3 minutes, still wearing pajamas beneath her lab coat. "Oxygen saturation is dropping," she said sharply. 70%, 65. She is in respiratory distress." Grace's tiny chest struggled to rise. Her lips were turning blue. "She is not responding to increased oxygen flow," the night veterinarian said, his voice tight. "Her lungs are failing. Manual ventilation." "Now," Dr. Reynolds ordered. For 8 agonizing minutes, they worked over Grace, delivering breaths with a pediatric ambu bag, adjusting medications, watching numbers fall and rise in terrifying patterns. "Her heart rate is slowing," someone said. Dr. Reynolds began chest compressions, her fingers gentle but precise against Grace's sternum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The heart monitor went flat. "No," I whispered from the doorway. She kept going. 10 seconds, 20, 30. "Come on, baby," she muttered. "Come on." Then a sound. A single beep. Then another. A rhythm reappeared on the screen. Grace gasped, her tiny body shuddering as air finally filled her lungs. "We have her back," Dr. Reynolds said, but her voice carried no relief. "This is the 2nd respiratory crisis in 4 days. Her lungs are severely underdeveloped. Even with the ventilator, she is barely holding on." She looked at me, and for the first time since I had known her, I saw something I never expected in her eyes: defeat. "We are losing her," she said quietly. "Modern medicine can only do so much for a gorilla born this premature. Without stronger lung function, without better temperature regulation, without—" She stopped mid-sentence. I watched her expression change. I saw the moment an idea took shape. "Without what?" I pressed. Dr. Laura Reynolds stood silently for a long moment, staring at Grace through the clear wall of the incubator. The machines hummed around us, doing everything they could, and still it was not enough. Then she said the words that made my breath catch in my throat. "Without her mother, she does not have a chance." An emergency staff meeting was called at 3 o'clock in the morning. We gathered in the dimly lit conference room, exhaustion written across every face. "Skin-to-skin contact," Dr. Reynolds said finally. "We take Grace out of the incubator and place her on Bella's chest." The zoo director stiffened. "That violates every existing protocol." Dr. Reynolds did not flinch. "The baby is dying anyway. And so is the mother." She pulled up medical research on her tablet, sliding it across the table. "Kangaroo care in premature human infants has shown dramatic improvements in breathing, heart rate, and temperature regulation." "We keep her on portable monitors," I said quickly. "Heart rate, oxygen saturation, temperature." but we let Bella hold her. The room fell silent. "If this goes wrong," the director said slowly, "then at least she will die in her mother's arms." No one spoke. "Do it." At dawn, we moved Grace. The portable incubator was rolled carefully through the quiet corridors toward Bella's recovery enclosure. Grace remained connected to her monitors, now attached to a compact unit that moved with her, each soft beep echoing my heartbeat. I entered the enclosure first, alone. Bella lay exactly where she had been for days, turned toward the wall, her body still except for the shallow rise and fall of her breathing. "Bella," I whispered, "I have someone who needs you." No response. I took a step closer. "Your baby needs you. Grace needs you." Bella's ear twitched. It was the first voluntary movement I had seen in 2 days. "I'm going to bring her to you now," I said softly. "But I need you to be very gentle. Can you do that for me?" Bella's head turned slightly. The emptiness in her eyes was gone, replaced by a sudden, piercing focus. She understood. Dr. Reynolds entered next, cradling Grace against her chest. Even wrapped in warming blankets, Grace looked heartbreakingly fragile. The oxygen tubing at her nose seemed far too large for her tiny face. Bella sat up. The movement was sudden and startling. She had been nearly unresponsive for days, yet now she was fully alert, her eyes locked on the small bundle in Dr. Reynolds' arms. A soft, trembling sound escaped her throat. Questioning, hopeful, desperate. "I need you to stay very still," Dr. Reynolds said gently. Bella could not understand the words, but she understood the tone. Calm, reassuring, trust. Bella froze, her massive body perfectly still. Dr. Reynolds approached slowly. Bella's hands rose, trembling with eagerness but controlled. Waiting. "Okay," Dr. Reynolds whispered. "Okay, Mama, here is your baby." She placed Grace against Bella's chest. For a moment, time stopped. Bella's enormous hands closed around her daughter with a gentleness that defied every assumption about her size and strength. She curved her body protectively, cradling Grace against her heart. Grace's eyes opened for the first time in hours, and then, on the portable monitors beside us, the numbers began to change. Grace's heart rate had been dangerously high, hovering around 180 beats per minute. It was the rhythm of stress, of a body fighting too hard for survival. Then, slowly, it began to fall. 170, 160, 150. Her oxygen saturation, which had been stuck at a frightening 88%, started to rise. 90%, 92, 94. Her body temperature, which had required constant artificial warming since birth, stabilized on its own. The numbers on the monitor steadied and held. "Oh my God," someone whispered from the observation room. Dr. Laura Reynolds stared at the screen, her eyes wide. She had hoped for improvement. She had never expected this. Within 2 minutes of being placed on her mother's chest, Grace's vital signs had completely normalized. Bella sensed it immediately. Her breathing, which had been shallow and uneven for days, deepened and slowed. A soft rumbling sound vibrated through her chest, a low, gentle vocalization gorillas use to express peace and contentment. Grace answered with a tiny coo. Bella's eyes widened. She looked down at her baby, then up at Dr. Reynolds, then back at Grace. The expression on her face was unmistakable. Wonder. I stood just inside the enclosure, tears streaming freely down my face. Bella began to groom Grace, her enormous fingers impossibly gentle as they traced her baby's face, her tiny hands, her feet. She was learning her, memorizing her, claiming her. Grace pressed closer to her mother's chest, making soft sounds of comfort. Hours passed. Bella did not move once. She sat perfectly still, cradling Grace, offering warmth and security in a way no machine ever could. "Love. The heart rates are synchronizing," Dr. Reynolds said softly as she studied the monitors. "Bella's heart rate is 65 beats per minute. Grace's is 130. Exactly double. A matched rhythm. 3 hours in, Grace did something she had not done since birth. She nursed. Bella shifted just enough, instinctively offering access. Grace latched on and fed successfully for the very first time. Bella closed her eyes, her entire body relaxing in relief. "She is going to make it," Dr. Reynolds whispered. "They both are." 6 hours after being placed on her mother's chest, Grace fell into a deep, restful sleep. Her breathing was steady. Her color was healthy and pink. Bella held her through it all, never adjusting her position. At hour 7, I brought food. Bella ate with one hand, never disturbing the baby sleeping against her chest. 1 week later, Grace had gained half a pound. Her lungs had strengthened dramatically. She was nursing regularly, sleeping peacefully, and showing all the signs of a healthy, though still small, infant gorilla. Bella never let her out of sight. She became the most attentive and protective mother our zoo staff had ever witnessed. 3 months later, Grace was thriving. She had reached a healthy weight. Her coordination was improving, and she had begun exploring her surroundings, always under Bella's watchful gaze. I stood at the observation window, watching Bella groom her daughter. Grace grabbed at her mother's fingers, trying to wrestle playfully. Bella allowed it, patient and gentle, her eyes filled with unmistakable love. "Modern medicine saved Grace's life," I said quietly, "but her mother's touch is what kept her alive." On the other side of the glass, Bella pulled Grace close, breathing in her scent, feeling the steady rhythm of her tiny heart. Grace yawned, safe and content, then drifted back to sleep. And Bella, who had been fading just months earlier, sat in complete peace, living for every moment with her daughter. If this story moved you, take a moment to share your thoughts. After witnessing Bella save her premature baby, do you believe a mother's instinct can be more powerful than technology? Yes or no? Let us know below. And thank you for listening.